This January, Chelsea spent €329 million on new players, which is 83 million more than all the teams from the Bundesliga, Serie A, League One and La Liga combined spent throughout this transfer window. Since the new owners with Todd Boehly in charge took over, Chelsea have spent €611,490,000 on signings. Though such spendings might seem impossible due to the financial fair play rules, the Chelsea board managed to outsmart UEFA. They offered their newcomers long-term contracts from 6 to 8.5 years, and the transfer fees are going to be paid throughout the following years, which will result in the club's spendings matching the income, and the club not breaking the rules. Chelsea are currently going 10th in the Premier League, 10 points behind the top 4, so they are likely to finish outside of the Champions League zone for the first time since the 2017-18 season. Though 3 out of 8 newcomers won't be able to make impact just yet, the other 5, however, are expected to play a big part from day one. So in this video, we'd like to try and predict the Chelsea squad for the near future. But before we begin, here's our question to you. Which one of these former Chelsea players joined the Blues for the smallest fee? Christian Pulisic, Diego Costa, Eden Hazard, Jorginho? Drop a comment if you think you know the answer, and get ready for watching. The arrivals. The first one to join Chelsea this winter was the centre-back Benoit Badiashile. While at Monaco, he became the first ever footballer born in the 21st century to play 100 League One games. Another English club, Manchester United, was following the Frenchman last summer, but in the end it was Chelsea to sign Badiashile for €38 million. The Frenchman is left-footed, which makes the signing of Joško Gvardiol from RB Leipzig nearly impossible after the Croatian could have joined the Blues for €90 million last summer. Benoit, in his turn, has been really solid for Chelsea so far, but unfortunately, he's going to be out of the Champions League for the rest of the season, as the team can only register 3 new players for the knockout stage. But in the end, the board decided that there were other positions that needed to be strengthened urgently. 2 more young players joined Chelsea at the beginning of the transfer window. Let's start with the striker David Datra Fofana, who's been a transfer target for many English clubs. Brighton, Graham Potter's old club, was among them. In the end, the 20-year-old Ivorian was signed from Molde, the Norwegian side, for €12 million. The Blues were planning to loan him out but didn't find the right team, so Fofana decided to stay at Chelsea and wait for his chance from a sub-at list. Another promising young player to have joined the Blues this winter is Andres Santos. The Brazilian managed to impress a bunch of big English clubs with his Vasco da Gama performance, so he was to choose between Newcastle, Manchester City and Chelsea. And in the end, it was the Blues who were lucky to sign the 18-year-old talent for €12.5 million. Once again, they thought about loaning him out at first, but the player's stats at the Copa America Under-20 qualifiers, 3 goals in 4 games despite playing in midfield, made Andres' new club think again. Now Chelsea would rather obtain a work permit for the Brazil Under-20 captain and make him a part of their squad for the rest of the season. The next name in our list is the Atletico striker João Felix, who moved to Chelsea on loan until the end of the season. The 23-year-old Portuguese joined Atletico in summer 2019 as he was signed from Benfica for €127,200,000. But no matter how hard he tried, Diego Simeone's defense-minded football was preventing him from showing his best qualities. As a result, a conflict between João and the head coach made the player change clubs. And the most interested club was Chelsea, that paid €11 million for the half-season loan. In his debut against Fulham, Felix looked really impressive at first, but went for a mindless tackle and got sent off early in the second half. That made him miss 3 following Premier League fixtures, and also he became the first ever Chelsea footballer to get sent off in his debut game. Federico Fazio from Tottenham was the previous one to get this lucky in 2014, as he got a red against Manchester City. However, there is still time for Felix to show himself at Chelsea. It is rumored that even though there's no permanent signing option in Joao's loan contract, there's still a chance he will move to Chelsea after his spell is over, should he do well enough. And now to the most unexpected signing of the January transfer window. Mykhailo Mudryk, the Shakhtar left winger, was believed to be joining Arsenal after hundreds of hours of negotiations. The Ukrainian side was asking for 100 million euros including bonuses, as they were sure that their leader is no worse than Manchester United's big signing, Anthony, who came from Ajax last summer. Arsenal in their turn were ready to offer 60 million plus 40 as future bonuses. Though the Shakhtar side were not satisfied with such terms, they were still considering accepting Arsenal's offer. But there came Chelsea and changed everything. The Blues negotiators came to Poland, where Shakhtar is currently based, and agreed on 70 million plus 30 if Chelsea wins the Premier League or the Champions League in the following couple of seasons. Even though Mudryk was leaning towards joining the Gunners, the negotiators persuaded him to come to Stamford Bridge instead, and that is how the deal was completed in a matter of hours. After it was all said and done with Mudryk, another winger came to Stamford Bridge, Noni Madueke, who plays on the right. Potter was keen on bringing him to Brighton, but just like David Fofana, the 20-year-old Englishman was meant to join him at Chelsea for 35 million euros. That is some really big money for a player who has only scored 4 goals and made 3 assists in Eredivisie throughout the beginning of the previous season. But it was Graham Potter, along with his coaching staff, who insisted on going for Madueke, so the manager is going to be the one responsible for the outcome of this story. After having signed Madueke, Chelsea went for a right back, as there was a need to bring in a replacement for the injury-prone Reece James, who has suffered 2 serious injuries and missed 36 games over the last year. Chelsea's ultimate choice was Malo Gusto from Lyon, though he is to stay at his current club until the end of the season, as after the 30 million deal was done, Gusto was loaned back to Lyon. The Blues are excited about their 19-year-old newcomer, who is considered among the most promising defenders in Europe and chose Chelsea over the likes of Bayern, Real Madrid and Manchester United. And now to the biggest signing of this winter, Enzo Fernandez, the centre midfielder who moved to Chelsea from Benfica. Enzo was signed by the Portuguese side in summer 2022. The 22-year-old player came from River Plate and his buyout clause was 120 million euros. After his brilliant performance at the World Cup, which got him named the best young player of the tournament, it became obvious that it would be impossible for Benfica to keep Enzo in the squad. There was hope, however, that no team would spend 120 million euros in winter. As it turned out, the Benfica board were terribly wrong. In early January, Chelsea came for Fernandes as they were ready to pay the required fee. There were still doubts though, so the Blues tried to offer another kind of deal, which involved players for a swap. The Portuguese side were infuriated with such a turn of events, and the deal fell through. By the end of January, Chelsea realized that there was no better option on the transfer market, so they came with an offer for Enzo once again. And once again, there were incredibly tough negotiations, which would break down and then start again. As a result, the sides finally agreed on 121 million euros paid in 6 tranches. Rui Costa, the Benfica president, never wanted to let a player go, but Enzo's desire to change clubs was the ultimate reason for the transfer to happen. Now the young Argentine is the biggest ever signing not only for Chelsea, but for the Premier League as well, ahead of Jack Grealish, signed by Man City from Aston Villa in summer 2021 for 117.5 million euros. The departures. A lot of footballers were to leave Chelsea this winter. Among them, the American winger Christian Pulisic, who had a decent season in 2019-20, but after that, tailed off. He could have left the club in January, but got injured while playing against Manchester City and had to stay at the club. Hakim Ziyech, another winger, was just about to join PSG on loan, but the deal fell through for a most amazing reason. The Moroccan came to Paris on the deadline day, everything was said and done, and he only needed to sign the contract. But the side started changing the terms all of a sudden. They did come to an agreement, but the problem was that documents Chelsea sent PSG 3 times were incorrect, and as a result the time ran out because of that. So now Ziyech is to stay at Chelsea for the rest of the season at least. The only Chelsea player to change clubs was the vice-captain Jorginho. The Brazilian-Italian's contract was to expire this summer, so he moved to another London side, that is, Arsenal. The Gunners offered 11,300,000 euros for the midfielder, who now has a chance to win the Premier League title with his new team. The 31-year-old Jorginho wasn't needed anymore at Stamford Bridge, But even so, he still remains a player of outstanding quality and a great penalty taker, who has scored 27 goals for Chelsea from the spot. What will the Chelsea squad look like? Taking into consideration all the January transfers, we can try and guess how the Chelsea first 11 is going to look like this season. Kepa Arrizabalaga is going to remain the first choice keeper, as Edouard Mendy's poor performance at the beginning of the season got him benched. What is more, Edouard is yet to recover from his finger injury, which makes his return even less likely. Kepa in his turn has been pretty solid this season, though his silly mistakes are still there. However, Chelsea are going to sell one of the two keepers at the end of the season and bring in a proper replacement. The right back position is going to be occupied by Reece James, who's considered one of the best right backs in the world for a reason. To get a better grip of how important he has been for the Blues, take a look at his stats: 11 goals and 20 assists in 135 appearances. Reece's injury proneness, however, is still an issue and a big obstacle to his further improvement. Cesar Azpilicueta, the captain, will be his backup for the rest of the season until Malo Gusto joins Chelsea in summer. Graham Potter is known for implementing a number of formations and adjusting to his opponents, but his primary one is 3 at the back, so minding that, we might expect Fofana, Silva and Badiashile to be the first option for Potter, at least in the Premier League, as Benoit is not available for the Champions League. There are 2 players who can replace him in Europe, Kalidou Koulibaly and Marc Cucurella, who can play as a centre-back as well due to his tackling skills and football intelligence. Thiago Silva is going to play in the very center. The Brazilian veteran has been so outstanding that the club is about to offer him a new contract despite his age. The 38-year-old Silva seems to pay no attention to his age and keep up with the pace of the Premier League just fine. Speaking of the right centre-back position, Trevor Chalobah has been playing there recently, but once Wesley Fofana is fully fit, he'll most likely be back in the first 11. After all, as much as €80,400,000 were paid for the Frenchman last summer. Just like Badiashile, Fofana is good both on and off the ball, and a good passer as well, which is what Graham Potter appreciates. In case there is a 2 in the back formation, it will most likely be Silva and Badiashile, the defensive duo we have already seen lately. The one to play on the left will be Ben Chilwell, good at both ends of the pitch as soon as he recovers from his injury. Marc Cucurella, signed from Brighton for €65,300,000, is going to compete with Ben for the left wing back position, though the Spaniard is yet to adapt to his new club's demands. And not to forget about the 18-year-old Lewis Hall, who broke into the first squad this season and has already made 8 appearances as well as 1 assist. The centre mid duo is going to be Enzo Fernandez and Mateo Kovacic. The Argentine has been one of the best playmakers in the top 5 leagues this season, with his 7 assists for Benfica and the highest performance of completed passes in the Portuguese Primeira. As for Kovacic, the Croatian is able to dribble the ball extremely well and make tackles and interceptions, which is a great asset to the team in transition. Another centre midfielder is N'Golo Kanté, who had to miss the bigger part of the season due to his injury. The Frenchman may soon sign a new contract, but it's too early to say if he's going to be back in the first 11 once he recovers. After all, there's also Denis Zakaria, who had a solid spell after the World Cup, but then got injured for a couple of weeks. In addition to the above-mentioned footballers, the likes of Mason Mount, Carney Chukwuemeka, Conor Gallagher, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and André Santos may well cover the centre-mid position, though they all prefer to play a bit higher up the pitch. Mikhailo Mudryk will play on the left. The Ukrainian, who possesses outstanding dribbling skills and creativity, is going to add a lot of quality to the Chelsea front line. But we shouldn't forget about Raheem Sterling either, as even though the Englishman hasn't had the best of spells at Stamford Bridge so far, he is a player of great quality and experience. And another 2, Joao Felix and the transfer-listed Christian Pulisic, can also play on the left if needed. The centre-forward position still remains the most problematic one for Chelsea. Graham Potter was so disappointed with the newly signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang that the Gabonese was omitted from the team's Champions League squad. The striker doesn't seem to be that eager to prove his manager wrong, though he still has a year and a half on his contract. Another number 9 is David Datro Fofana, who still has a long way to go though. As a result, Kai Havertz as a false 9 is going to be the way to go for Graham Potter, while there's also Joao Felix able to play the false 9 role. Kai Havertz, however, has no time to relax. as the best Bundesliga goalscorer Christopher Nkunku is about to move to Chelsea in summer, as claimed by a number of reliable sources. Hakim Ziyech, who failed to complete a deadline day move to PSG, is going to be the Blues' first option on the ride. Despite the Moroccan's low morale, Graham Potter started him against Fulham. So we'll see if Madueke is going to win the competition for the first 11 with such a quality player. Apart from these two, there are Sterling and Mount, who can play on the right, and another one, Nkunku, is about to join Chelsea in summer. Chelsea has spent unbelievably huge money on signings this winter, while their summer signings are yet to live up to the expectations. Cucurella is lacking his former maturity and composure. Sterling struggles with playing along his new teammates and leading Chelsea attacks. Fofana's performance is hampered by injuries, while Koulibaly and Aubameyang have been straight out poor, so Chelsea will likely sell them in summer. Denis Zakaria, in his turn, has been a bright spot lately, though he's on loan, and it's too early to tell if there will be a permanent deal at the end of the season. We should mind the summer transfer campaign and not expect Chelsea to find immediate success, even though the winter transfers do look more thoughtful, as by January there had already been a functional board and an established scouting system. Now we have to wait and see how it all is going to work out for the Blues. Dear friends, which one of these Chelsea transfers do you find the most promising? Let us know in the comments, please. See you soon.